Greetings and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, James. My editor has informed me that until this channel gets views from more than refreshing the screen to check the view count, we'll be using an algorithm-friendly format for our advice going forward. So, with that in mind, without further ado, here's the top 1 ways that expert GMs use to increase player engagement and reduce their own in-game burnout. We'll be starting this at the top, so hold on to your hats, because I can't. My editor confiscated mine after the last video. Number 1, harlequinning. Harlequinning is when a game master foists off the duty of playing NPCs on a player whose character isn't currently in the scene. Usually it's advised to prepare this ahead of time by making a few note cards that you can hand off to players with the NPC's description, personality, and goals. Here's one I made as an example. Now don't feel like you need to match the quality portrayed here. I'm a pseudo-professional. As long as your card gets across enough information to get the player started, it'll be great. As you can see, I stick to 1 or 2 sentences for each of these categories to give the players maximum freedom. I mean, not maximum freedom. If you wanted to do that, you'd probably just write a big question mark and maybe accompany it with a shrug. You'll be giving them a mid-range degree of freedom, which, I want to assure you, is exactly the amount of freedom you typically want to give your players. Now, prepping these note cards is a little bit of extra work, particularly since you won't know for certain when PCs are going to be splitting up or who they're going to be talking to when they do. Unlike other forms of extra work GMs tend to take on, consider this work an investment, which can pay off something called dividends later. What kind of dividends, you'd ask, if you wanted to prompt me to talk further on this subject? Handing off playing NPCs to your players is going to give you some much needed breathing room during the game. You can use this to review your notes, plan out the next encounter, or figure out the long-term consequences of the weird shenanigans of their last encounter. Or you just take a moment of rest from being the sole vessel that every aspect of the game world is expressed through. Further, even if your players don't use your note cards, there's no reason you can't use them yourself. These note cards are a useful reminder of what a given NPC is about and what they want. They're a valuable tool when making your characters feel more three-dimensional to the players rather than just random shopkeep number 7 with a name neither you nor they can remember. So I can tell I've sold you on this harlequinning thing, right? But which NPCs do you choose? Not all of them will work. Some NPCs will have plot-critical roles that you might not trust your players to carry out. Perhaps the NPC even has secret knowledge that informs their behavior. And even though your players have forgotten everything else about the NPC since last session and will forget it all next session, they will remember this one secret. So obviously, don't choose plot-critical NPCs. Unless you're addicted to chaos and just want to see what would happen, then definitely choose plot-critical NPCs for harlequinning. But for everybody else, typically your time will best be spent on NPCs that your players are likely to have individual business with. They're going to be ones that players separate apart from one another and go to see on their own. Shopkeepers are the obvious choice, but secretly for my games, my go-to are city guards. Nothing has ever been as gratifying as handing a city guard NPC to one of my players so that they can deal with the shenanigans of the other player. Fair warning though, and I speak from experience, don't put the guard's combat stats on the card. You might think that it might be a handy last resort for your players, but they won't see it that way. You put combat stats on that guard's card, they will take it as a proposal. Another fun option for this technique is to combine local rumor sheets you commonly see in published adventures with some NPCs designed specifically for the purpose of giving out these rumors. Having a barkeep, a Dickens whelp, and a town spinster ready to go at a moment's notice with a host of rumors you were going to give your players anyways can make for some great encounters between one PC and an NPC played by a different player. So now your only question should be, how do you get your players more interested in taking on these roles for you? Like any change you make in your game's format, there will be some players that are reticent. Perhaps because they're shy, perhaps because they're unsure of what's expected of them, or maybe because they had planned to use their usual downtime to get to level 17 in their latest phone game. Well, the most straightforward way to get them enthusiastic is to bribe them. While not all games have experience awarded for role-playing, if yours does, that's honestly the easiest solution. Even if you don't play with the in-game role-playing awards, you could try praising players that volunteer. Be careful how you praise them, though. This is a double-edged sword. You spend a lot of time telling the first player that volunteers how good a job they did. It may make some other players reticent about whether or not they'll be able to measure up if they volunteer. Instead, just thank your players and make it clear that they helped you out. Bribes and thank yous aren't the only techniques that work, though. Another tactic you can use to improve your odds of getting player buy-in is to blindly assume they're on board for it. Blind assumption is an underestimated technique for getting things done. When you're employing the blind optimism technique in this instance, write down complete instructions on your note cards for harlequinning, along with a compliment to butter them up. When the opportunity comes up, pass your chosen player the note card face down and silently wait for them to read it. Make certain to steeple your fingers as such. Then gaze expectantly at the player, making it clear to the other players that you're all waiting on Dave. If you choose your first participant well, they should cave to the onslaught of peer pressure in short order. And now that they've got the ball rolling, it should be easier to get the other players involved. If it isn't, don't use this technique. It was terrible advice for your group. I don't know why it's at the top of the list. You should just skip harlequinning and go on down to number 2 on the list. Number 2. Oh, right. So that concludes our top 1 tier list on how to engage your players while giving yourself a break. Normally, I'd play you a recording of our theme song, but it didn't pull well with our viewers, so I think I'll just bid you all have a good day and sign off. Eventually, we'll hire a proper songwriter, singer, and an editor that doesn't sniff quite as much glue once we've got some money. So, signing off.
Playing games with your friends, it's what you're here to do. But I have, my dear friends, some disappointing news for you. Here on this channel that you've found yourself a pawn. We talk and we gab and we go on and on and on. So go out, go forth to the great world beyond and play with some people maybe all the way across the pond.